Hey guys, my name is Olga and I'm happy to see you here in this new video. And today we're gonna try, finally, a Roxa palette from Natasha Denona. You're gonna see swatches, free makeup looks, wear test, and of course we are gonna compare this palette with some other eyeshadow palettes. So take a seat and let's start. First look, and today we're gonna do smoky eyes using mainly purple shades. And let me explain actually why. It's quite complicated to produce nice purple shades, so that's why I wanna try them today and I wanna test whether they are blendable, whether they are pigmented, and how they work together. So most likely today our main shade is gonna be the purple one, the most complicated shade. Then I'm gonna use this shade as a transition shade and this shade as a kind of a shade for blending everything into skin, but it's not that correct. It should be actually lighter, but still I wanna try these three main shades because they are more purple and lilac. And as well, probably I will try this darker shade and I will apply it closer to the lash line. And probably we are gonna try these two purple dark shades as well, because today is a purple day. So, and let's go, guys. And I will start, yes, from which shade? We're gonna start from the darkest shade and I'm gonna apply it on the lid. It's not dusty. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Okay, on this side I'm not gonna have any eyeshadow bases, on this side I will have. Dum dum dum. I can't really say that it is super pigmented, but it's pigmented. But you have to layer this shade. And well, it's fine at some point. Okay. Applying it slightly higher than crease, so probably till this part. Changing the brush and applying the same shade to the outer corner. And of course applying it on the lower lid because we are gonna have smoky eyes. First impressions. Knowing that I haven't applied any bases, I think it's okay. Yes, of course, you have to layer this shade because it's not super pigmented, but for purple, it is pigmented, so it's okay. And well, I think it's more than just okay. And if you apply it over some bases, I mean, for instance, if you apply cream eyeshadows, purple cream eyeshadows, and then you apply over this shade, it should be gorgeous. Changing the brush, and now I'm gonna use this shade for blending the edges. It's not dusty as well. Time to check whether these two are blendable. This shade is more on pink side. It's kind of lilac, pink lilac, but more pink. So carefully blending the edge. Changing the brush, grabbing the one which is bigger and grabbing slightly lighter shade, and same thing, it's not dusty. These two shades, they work nicely together and actually it's quite easy to blend them. But yeah, the shade is quite questionable, but should be fine. As a result, blending the edges. I can't really use the shade for blending it into skin because it's way too bright and way too pink, but that's fine for blending edges. Adding the same shade on the lower lid for blending the edges. Take a look. Still, this shade, this purple shade, appears a bit patchy right here, and well, it's okay, but of course it could be better, but actually for purple, it's okay. Now we are gonna try some shimmers, and I wanna try these two. So I'm gonna start from the darkest one, and I will apply it closer to the outer corner. It has base. It's purple, of course. And I will add it right here. And I will add it a little bit above the crease. At least what's left on my brush. Oh, beautiful shade. But again, it is a good choice for some smoky eyes. Changing the side, and let's apply this shade. Of course, I'm gonna mix it and we will see. We'll apply it closer to the inner corner. Of course, it's lighter and it contains silver, gray silver. Well, they look good together. In the inner corner, I will add a light shade and probably will add it as well a little bit on the lower lid. Gorgeous shade. Oh yes, I like it. And it's slightly pink and it's slightly purple with white base, and looks stunning. Couldn't find my beloved black eyeliner from Kiki Milana, so I had to take the other one. It's from Maybelline, and I'm gonna add this eyeliner in the waterline and near the lash line, and of course I'm gonna blend the edge slightly. And don't wait till this product dries. And time for the darker shade from the palette, and I'm gonna add it near the lash line right here and blending the shade into previous one. We are doing smoky today, don't forget about that. I am done with this look, and of course it's not a basic daily look, but it is a nice option for some events, for Christmas and so on. Anyway, it is an option. So today we have tried 4 matte eyeshadows and 3 shimmers. So in total we have tried 7 shades. And let me tell you what I've used today on lips. A lip liner from Natasha Denona in shade Natasha, and a lipstick from L'Oreal in shade 191. And time to share some thoughts. And I'm not that happy with my false lashes today, but anyway. So, quality. Matte eyeshadows. Quite easy to blend, they are not dusty, they are quite pigmented. Purple is purple, basic purple. On this side, it looks far better on this side as it was my first try. I have some patches actually, and yes, it might be a little bit patchy, especially if you try to layer it. It's not that super pigmented. It's far better to apply it over something, for instance over an eyeshadow primer, and in this case it should work a little bit better. Or you can apply it over eyeliners or cream or liquid eyeshadows, and in this case again it should be far better. And you have to layer this product, you don't have a choice because it's purple. So it's okay, but still it's possible to move this shade, it's possible to blend it, and it's quite pigmented at the same time. And I do like the other shades we have tried today. It was quite easy to work with them, it was quite easy to layer them and to blend them, and they work nicely together, and with this shade as well. This shade, gorgeous. I have tried something familiar from Huda Beauty. I would say we're gonna probably compare these 2 shades. It's more about blueberries and dark blueberries. A lovely shade, easy to apply, easy to blend. It's not dusty, it's not patchy, and works nicely with purple. Talking about these 2 shades, shimmers, they are quite dark, so you can use them as transition shades or you can use them in the smoky eyes. So if you're gonna apply it as it is, and if you're not gonna have any matte eyeshadows, dark matte eyeshadows, it would look extremely strange. So don't do this. Don't do this. This shade is gorgeous. Just, oh, it's stunning. It's I think that I have seen something familiar already, and I think it's quite easy to find a dupe to this shade. It is a mix of pink with a bit of purple on white base. Beautiful shade, like it, should work nicely in case of some daily look, so you can easily apply it over the lid and it should look beautiful. And actually you can combine it with these two shades. I think it should work nicely as well. It's more about basic metallic, but it's not that basic as this one. Here we have a bit more shimmers, additional shimmers, and they are purple. So yeah, kind of. No particular questions from quality point of view. Of course, I can tell you that purple could be better, but it's okay for purple. So now I'm gonna show you makeup look closely and we're gonna see each other in the evening. I have my makeup on 11.5 hours and we are gonna check everything out. On this side I've used an eyeshadow primer and everything looks perfectly. On this side I haven't used anything and actually it looks fine as well. Yes, something has creased here, but it's not that bad, and shimmers didn't fall off, so I do like it. Time for the second look, and today we are gonna try mainly this color story, which is slightly red. And as well, I wanna try these two beautiful shades today, and I'm a big fan of this formula from Natasha Denona. It's quite new to her, and it was released as a part of I Need a Nude palette. And yeah, yeah. Beautiful formula. And today we are gonna do a wing, a smudged wing, and I'm gonna use this red shade. Actually, sorry. Actually, I'm not sure about this shade. It looks a little bit strange. It's slightly gray with a bit of purple, and maybe I will use it as a crease shade. And probably yes, it's gonna be the case. And we are gonna draw a wing using these three shades, and we're gonna blend these shades. The darkest is gonna be maybe this one. I think it is the darkest one, and medium, and the lightest. So let's go and let's start. And we are gonna start from the crease shade, from this one. From this interesting shade. So grabbing it on a medium side brush and applying it in the crease. Yes, it's slightly gray with a bit of purple and with a bit, no pink. So adding it right here and moving to all directions. As well, we'll add this shade slightly to the outer corner. Time to do a base for my wing, and I'm gonna use this orchid shade for this. It's quite pigmented and it is a mix of pink and purple and with a bit of red. Today I'm gonna have quite big wing. So I'm creating a base. It's gonna be my medium shade and drawing this base. It's quite pigmented. It's possible to layer the shade well, and it's quite easy to blend it. Moving it in all directions. Back to the previous shade, and of course blending the edge right here. Now I'm gonna use slightly small brush for blending the edge and using slightly red shade. I'm gonna use it right here. Probably it was a bad idea. I should have changed. Anyway, it's already too late. So adding the shade right here and carefully blending these edges. Time for a small brush and for the darkest shade for today. grabbing it on a small brush and adding definition to my wing. So adding the shade near the lash line and of course creating a base of my wing and blending this edge, blending the shade to the previous shades. Now we are gonna add shimmers and I'm gonna start from this shade and I'm gonna add it in the center. And not that easy to take it on a brush. Okay, it's way too creamy. Starting from the center and applying the shade in all directions. I think it's far better to apply it with finger. Yes, way too better. And as well, in the center, I'm gonna add this topper right here. Back to the darkest shade I've used today and adding it near the lash line till the inner corner. In the inner corner, I'm gonna add the shade I've used in the crease today. And on the lower lid, I'm gonna use shade Orchid, at least in the outer part and probably a bit right here. And under the pupil, I wanna add probably this shade. I haven't tried it yet, so let's try it. Basic metallic. Simple, basic, and nice. Near the lash line, I'm gonna add black eyeliner. In the waterline, gonna add slightly lilac shade from Train It Up. Right here. Seems okay. And maybe it would be better if I used dark blue or blue. Okay, anyway, we'll keep it. And we'll draw an inner line using the darkest, slightly red shade I've used today. We are done with the second look, and of course my top one shade is this one, Pixie, or not Pixie, Dixie. Sorry, it looks so lovely and so beautiful on eyelid, but it's not that easy to apply this shade with brushes. It's way too creamy and it's far better to apply it with fingers. I like this shade as well, it looks lovely, and if we combine these two, you're gonna have a bit of pink and a bit of blue as well, but the main shade is gonna be the blue one. And I think that this shade is not new to me. I think that I've seen something familiar to it. At least I have put in my mind, but I'm gonna find this shade probably. Don't know where I saw it, but I definitely saw it somewhere. Anyway, we have tried today 4 new matte shades, and I'm impressed by this shade. It appears gray in the palette, but it looks purple on eyelid. Beautiful shade, and actually if you have cold undertone, I think it is a nice shade and it should be more even purple in your case. In my case, it's a little bit gray, purple and gray, and not even purple, it's more lilac. Lovely, like it. It's quite interesting and quite complicated. This shade reminds me cherries, I would say, probably a mix of something cherry with a bit of red. Lovely. This one beautiful as well, but it appears more dark pink with a bit of red. And when you start applying it near red, slightly red eyeshadows, it appears more red, I would say, but still it looks pink. So as well, a quite interesting and quite complicated shade. This one is more on red side, red plus orange, and I would say on dark side, more on dark side. These two should work nicely together, and actually you can combine these 3 shades, the darkest one, medium, and the lightest, and it should be nice as well. Actually, we haven't tried only one shimmer shade, this one, and I will try it tomorrow, and I will probably combine it with this shade again. I do like this formula from Natasha Denona. You can apply it as it is and it would appear more like a topper. For instance, you can do fully matte look and then apply this topper slightly over, and it should be quite nice. Actually, it should be quite nice. But as I have to try all shades, I can't really show you this look. Yeah, so let me tell you what I've used today on lips. A lip liner from Essence in shade 14, and I've applied a lip gloss from Fenty in shade Pussy, and looks beautiful, lovely combo. So now I'm gonna show you, of course, makeup look closely, and we're gonna see each other in the evening. I have my makeup on around 11 hours, and we are gonna check everything out. We're gonna start from this side. I've used here an eyeshadow primer. Everything looks perfectly except mascara, but okay, anyway, it happens. The only thing which I wanna do, okay, anyway, we'll remove it later on. Here, actually it looks fine, despite the fact that I haven't used any eyeshadow primers here. Yes, a little bit right here, but it's not visible. It's almost not visible. So I don't like it, and actually I do like this look, and especially the shimmers. I've used the gray. Just take a look. Stunning. Time for the last look, and we haven't tried only one shade, so it's gonna be our main shade for today. Today I'm gonna do something probably basic. I'm gonna use what I'm gonna use actually. I don't know. Most likely I will use this dark shade and I will combine it slightly with this red story. In the center I will apply this closer to the outer corner. Actually, I will apply this shade closer to the inner corner. Probably I will apply this shade. And a little bit over, I will apply this beautiful topper. Something like this actually. So let's start, and we are gonna start, of course, we're gonna start from the darkest shade, from this one. So grabbing it a little bit on a brush. As a reminder, these these matte eyeshadows are not dusty. So what I'm gonna do, let's start. On this side, I don't have any eyeshadow primers. So here you're gonna see how eyeshadows work themselves. So applying closer to the outer corner and seal the crease. Maybe I will draw a wing, but I haven't decided yet. Changing the brush, and I wanna add probably this shade, or let's mix these two, and it's gonna be our crease shade. Kind of a mix of red and pink. Oh, looks lovely. And of course it's pigmented. Of course. So blending this shade. And let's use this shade for blending everything into skin. Or probably I will mix it with this one. Let's mix a bit. Blending the edge. No harsh lines, don't forget about that. Now let's try to apply some toppers, and of course I'm gonna start from our today's star. Grabbing it on a brush, on a flat one, and it's doable. And applying it closer to the outer corner. Oh, beautiful shade, I like it. But actually we need something as a transition shade. You know what? Changing the side, and I wanna add this shade slightly closer to the darkest one. And in this case, it's gonna be far better. So right here, applying a little bit. And of course, I'm gonna return back to the darker shade and gonna blend the edge. Now, closer to the inner corner, let's try to add this beauty. And again, using a flat brush, starting from the inner part and moving the shade. And of course, applying slightly over the crease. Looks beautiful. Not sure whether I want to add this topper over slightly or not. I will. I like it. I mean, I like this formula from Natasha and it's gorgeous. So applying it right here, just a bit more shimmers. I want to add a little bit more definition using the darker shade from the palette, and I will add it closer to the outer corner, of course, right here, and a bit near the lash line. And of course, I'm gonna blend this shade. Moving to the lower lid, grabbing the same shade and starting from the outer corner. In the inner corner, I will add matte, the lightest matte eyeshadow, because we already have way too much shimmers, so no need to add more. And moving this shade slightly to the lower lid. And as a transition shade right here, I'm gonna use this one. And blending all shades together. And I don't wanna have a wind day. I'm gonna add a bit of black eyeliner near the lash line. And of course, I'm gonna blend it a little bit. And in the waterline, I'm gonna add a lilac shade from Trend It Up. It was limited edition. Done with the final look, and of course I like it. of course I like it. Let me tell you what I'm wearing currently on lips. A lip liner Luxe Visage shade 66 and a lip gloss from Fenty Beauty shade Fussy. And yeah, I like this palette. Of course, it's not for daily looks. Of course, it's way too purple and way too red, but this palette works and it works perfectly. And I have tried all shades actually, and my top four actually shimmers here, this shade and this three, I mean, they're great, they are gorgeous. Matte eyeshadows, perfect, guys, they're perfect. Purple shades are quite complicated. It's quite complicated to produce them and it's quite costly. And here everything is fine. They are quite pigmented. This shade is a little bit less pigmented, but I can say that at some point it is expected, but it's possible to layer it. And it works nicely with this shade and with these two as well. Perfect. It was way too easy to work with this shade. It was way too easy to blend it, and yes, it looks and it works lovely with other shades. My beloved shade from this palette is this one. It's so complicated. It's so complicated and great. It appears way too light in the palette, way too gray in the palette, but in real life it's more purple gray, slightly light purple gray, and looks wonderful. And I would say it's more like a unique shade. So yes, I like it, and it would appear differently depending on a specific undertone. So yes, I like this palette. Now I'm gonna show you eye makeup closely, and we're gonna see each other in the evening, and we are gonna discuss everything. I have my makeup on around 10 hours, and now it's time to check everything out. We're gonna start from this side. I have used an eyeshadow primer here. Everything seems quite great. On this side, I haven't used anything. Yep, eyeshadows may crease a little bit, but it's not that bad. I like this palette actually. So let's discuss everything. Time to discuss, and of course we're gonna start from basic information. This palette costs almost 72 euro. It's made in Italy, and we have here 17.15 grams. Actually, it's a little bit less than usually. If we compare it to some other palettes from Natasha Denona, for instance, Retro palette 19.25, Golden palette 18.9, I Need a Warm palette 18.15 grams, and Xenon 18.15 grams. So we have a little bit less this time. We have a beautiful packaging, looks lovely. It's a little bit, it shifts actually slightly from purple to green, but fingerprints are everywhere. And this packaging looks quite similar to Golden palette, as you can see. And fingerprint everywhere. And if we compare it to Retro or I Need the Warm or I Need a Nude palette, I would prefer these palettes, I mean the packagings, because they look a little bit better after using this palette, and you can't always clean it. I mean, it's way too much. But anyway, we have 7 shimmers here, and we have 8 matte eyeshadows. So now we are gonna talk about the quality, and of course we are gonna start from matte eyeshadows. We have only one formula here. We don't have super creamy formula. And by this, I mean, for instance, Golden palette, shade Pana, I think it's Pana. So we don't have this formula in this particular palette. Easy to work, easy to blend, they are pigmented, they are not dusty at all, and they are great actually. We have beautiful purple here, and actually purple eyeshadows, they are quite complicated, and it's not that easy to do a perfect purple shade. In most of the cases they are gonna be a little bit patchy actually. So this shade is a little bit patchy as well. You have to layer it actually, and if you compare this shade to this one is going to be a little bit more, I would say, creamy and more pigmented. This one you have to a little bit layer, and guys, it's expected actually. It's expected. It's not bad. It's still not bad. It's great for this palette, for this quality. But just simply bear in mind, and guys, it's related to all purple shades. And if you try to find a perfect purple, for instance, which would cost a little bit less, sometimes they are way too patchy. Here the texture is better and is more creamy, but if we compare to several shades, and we are gonna actually compare, for instance, from Beauty Bay is gonna be a little bit drier. The texture is gonna be a little bit drier and more possibility to have some patches. So that's why I think actually this purple is a nice one. Moving on. Basic metallic shade, and I would say that we have 2 shades in this formula, basic metallic. Yes, it looks beautiful. It seems like we have 2 shades, we have to mix them, but it just, in order to have something beautiful in the palette and eye-catching, I would say. Easy to apply with a brush, looks lovely, doesn't emphasize skin texture. I mean, this formula, this basic metallic formula. My beloved super shimmer formula, which was new, which was actually released as a part of I Need a Nude palette. I do like this formula. It's perfect. It's shimmery. It looks lovely. Doesn't emphasize skin texture. Doesn't have visible base. Easy to apply with a brush, and it doesn't fall off while wearing. Perfect. And it reminds me slightly, I mean, this formula from Natasha Denona reminds me Space Cowboy from Urban Decay. So I think that these formulas, they are quite familiar, and yeah, beautiful formula. Crystal 1, 2. Probably I would, no, 1-2, mainly 1-2. Not sure about this particular shade and not sure about this formula. It reminds me slightly crystal formula, so it looks quite similar to this one, but it's not exactly the same. But you know what, guys? This particular shade actually looks quite similar to this shade. And at some point it reminds me crystal shade, but from the other side, it's not that great. Actually, let me explain why. So this particular shade is great, easy to apply with a brush, might be applied with a finger, and it's easy to apply this product, this particular shade with a brush. It's shimmery, it's beautiful, has visible base, looks lovely. This shade has quite visible base, and it's not that easy to apply it with a brush, but still possible to apply this particular shade with a brush. The formula looks quite similar to this one. The only thing that it's not that shimmery, I would say. Looks beautiful. This shade, I like it, but the quality, something is wrong with the quality here, because you can't, it's almost impossible to apply this shade with a brush. It's like you have something over. When you touch this shade, you feel like your fingers, they glide slightly. So that's why sooner or later it would be not that easy to apply this particular shade with a brush or with fingers. You will have to remove a top layer sooner or later. But I like this particular shade because it's way too great and too beautiful. This shade reminds me of basic metallic with a bit of shimmers. So from quality point of view, we have only one shade which is slightly questionable and with which we may have some problems. And let's start our color discussion from this particular shade. I do like it. It is a mix of pink with light blue. Looks way too great on eyelid and beautiful. And yes, I like it. And by the way, it contains a little bit of purple. Beautiful shade. The next one, basic purple. And yeah, it is a nice basic purple. It's not super dark, it's not super light, it's not super red, because sometimes there are some purples which are way too red. No, it is a perfect basic purple, like it. My beloved shade from this palette, it is a mix of pink, purple, dark blue, and just a little bit, but still, and silver. Gorgeous shade, and has slightly visible pink base, but it depends. It really depends. In some cases, it may not be visible at all. If you want to apply it as a topper, you can easily apply it as a topper, and in this case, this base is not going to be super visible. One of the best shade from this palette. It's extremely complicated. In the palette, right now, on camera, it appears gray. Light gray. But it's lilac. It's lilac plus gray. I mean, it's purple. It appears a little bit purple. And when you do some swatches, you see that it's not gray. It's not gray at all. This shade is the best one from the complication point of view side. And I'm impressed because it's not that easy to find such shades. In most of the cases, lilac shades, they are basic lilac, pure lilac. Here we have a bit of gray, and due to this shade appears beautifully on eyelid. If you have gold undertone, I think this shade is going to be perfect in your case. Basic pink with a bit of golden, but we have neutral golden here. Lovely basic shade. Moving to slightly red shades, and we're gonna start from this one. Of course, it is a mix of light red with a bit of pink, and depending on the look and depending on the shades which are gonna be nearby, this shade may appear way too red or way too pink. Beautiful and really complicated. It reminds me slightly cherries at some point. This shade is more on red side. It has a little bit of pink, but it's more about red still. Light red with a bit of pink as well. Beautiful shade. And same thing, if you're gonna use it closer to some red shades, it would appear more red. Purple. It looks like it is a mix of purple and gray, and on eyelid it appears more, especially if you mix the shade, it appears more like light purple. And it's better to use the shade as a part of smoky eyes. Same thing here, because these two shades are way too dark and you can't really apply it on the eyelid and do something and go. You have to use some dark shades nearby. Impressed, impressed, impressed. A white base with a bit of purple and pink. At the beginning, I thought that it has a bit more pink, but now it has a bit more purple. So beautiful shade might be used in the inner corner, on the eyelid itself. Like it, love it. Can be easily combined with other shades from this palette. Blueberries. I always call such shades blueberry shade, because really it reminds me blueberries. And yeah, it's dark purple with a bit of burgundy, with a bit of something dark, dark brown or something like this. Beautiful shade, and it's so easy to work with this shade. I was surprised because sometimes such shades, they are quite patchy. Here, it was way too easy to work with this shade. It was extremely easy to work with this shade, and it was easy to blend these two guys together. Like it, love it, beautiful, impressed. Lilac. Lilac with a bit of pink, and not really a bit of pink. It has quite a lot pink undertone. As well, beautiful shade, might be easily combined with other shades, might be combined with purple story and with red story. Looks lovely. Basic purple with golden shimmers. Dark purple, moreover. Better to use it as a part of a smoky eyes. Interesting shade as well. Mix of lilac, dark lilac with a bit of gray. So yes, this particular shade has slightly gray undertone, and actually it is visible, and you can easily combine it with this beautiful gray lilac shade, but this one is lighter, this one is a little bit darker, not just a little bit, it's definitely darker. Oh yes, lovely. I didn't think that I would like this shade actually, because it appears in the palette like basic pink with red, with a bit of red. But on eyelid, perfect. A red, pink, as I already told you, and golden. And it contains quite a lot golden, and due to this shade doesn't look that dark on eyelid. That's why it can be easily used in some daily looks, actually. Not only evening looks, but daily looks. It is a good choice as well, and you can easily combine these two, and they should work nicely together. One more interesting shade, it appears a bit more pink in the palette, but it contains red as well. So that's why when you do a look using these three eyeshadows, your look would appear a bit more red, but if you separate these eyeshadows, your look may appear more pink. And of course, you can combine all the shades with purples, and it's going to be perfect. And now let's quickly compare some shades. Unfortunately, this time I don't really have quite many similar shades, but still I'm gonna show you something. We are gonna start from purple, and I have quite similar shades from drugstore, from more affordable makeup brands. We're gonna start from ColourPop, and here we have a beautiful purple shade. It's not an exact match, and if we talk about the formula here, it's drier. It's way too drier, and this shade might be patchy, but it's okay. It's purple. It's okay. But I think that these two shades, they look quite similar. The only thing that here we have kind of a bit more, I would say, blue than here. But still, they look quite similar, and you can use one or the other. As well, I have found one more purple Beauty Bay, Love Notes, and this particular shade. Same thing. If we talk about Beauty Bay, these eyeshadows, they are great, but they are a little bit drier. Oh, not only a little bit, they are definitely drier than Natasha Denona. So let's see. Quite similar, yeah, but not exactly the same. But same thing, depending on the look, they may appear quite the same. And I think that here I have quite similar shade as well. This one, it's called Velvet. Beauty Bay. Same thing, Beauty Bay. I have quite many purple shades from Beauty Bay. And I think that these two, they look quite similar. Time to talk about blueberries. And we are gonna start from Natasha Denona. Beautiful shade, I like it. Beauty Bay, same palette. It looks quite similar, I think. I mean, yeah, they do look quite similar, but probably here we have a bit more red undertone. Huda Beauty, what do we call it? Nude Rich palette. The darker shade from this palette, but I think it's a little bit more on brown side if we compare. Yes, as you can see, a bit more brown, a bit more blueberries, and a bit more purple as well. Natasha Denona. This lovely palette, it's called Mini Love Palette, and the shade in the middle. As well, it looks quite similar. And I think that this shade is quite close to this one. And if you need this particular shade from this palette, I think it's far better to try to find this palette from Natasha Denona. It costs less, and same thing, we have a slightly lilac, purple, pink here. And by the way, this shade looks quite similar. I've just realized it. No. Forget it. Forget about that. They're not exactly the same. So, Blueberry Story. Probably this shade looks quite similar as well, but it's way too lighter, so I don't think it makes sense to compare it. Slightly red and pink shade from Natasha Denona Mini Crush Palette. It looks quite it looks quite similar actually to this shade from this palette. And in the beginning, I thought that it's more or less the same shade. I mean, they are quite the same. The only thing that here probably we have a little bit, just a little bit more red, and that's it. And maybe the shade is a little bit lighter. But if you layer it, or if you add less the shade, I think that they are gonna be more or less the same actually. And we are done at some point. Yes, if we talk about this particular shade, I think it's doable to find a dupe, but I don't really have any white with a bit of purple. I do have mainly white with pink, and as an option, Beauty Bay Mini Charms. Here we have beautiful white with pink, but the thing is that it contains a bit of golden as well. So these two shades are, of course, they are not the same. They have different tones and undertones, more purple, here more golden and more pink, here a bit more pink and purple. So not a dupe, not an exact dupe. As well, when I applied this shade on eyelid, I thought about Retro from Natasha Denona. Not the same at all. Because Retro has a bit more, I would say, something green. And this shade Dixie, if I'm not mistaken, is more about pink. I think it's doable, same thing, to find a dupe, but I don't have really. Probably if you live in Poland, you can check out, or if you live in Europe, try to check Glam Shop. I think that Glam Shop probably has something familiar, and it's possible to find a single eyeshadow, quite similar, single eyeshadow, but I'm not sure about that. I think it's doable, or they are gonna have quite similar shade, but maybe it's not gonna be exactly the same, but still it's gonna be quite similar. I like the shade, but damn, what's wrong with the quality with this shade? I'm a little bit disappointed by this shade. Talking about wear test. This palette behaves perfectly. Of course, metallics may crease. Guys, it's expected. If we talk about super creamy metallics, they may crease easily because they're way too creamy. And due to this, you should apply them over an eyeshadow base, eyeshadow primer, or you can apply them over cream eyeshadows and or liquid eyeshadows. But it's crucial that your first layer is fully done and fully dried before applying such shimmer eyeshadows. Matte eyeshadows are perfect, they don't fade while wearing, everything is great. But of course, be careful while applying some shimmers because some pieces may fall off while being applied, and at some point it's gonna be expected. My personal opinion. At the beginning, I didn't thought of buying this palette because I was like, purple, purple, basic purple. Do I really need it or not? Then I decided to buy it, and I don't regret buying it. I don't regret because there are some shades which are quite unique, and I don't have such shades. For instance, some lilac shades. They are complicated. I do have some lilacs. For instance, Love Notes from Beauty Bay. Here there are some nice basic lilac and lavender shade, and yeah, they're great, but they're kind of basic shades, simple shades. And if we compare these shades to Natasha Denona shades, they are way too different. Shades from Natasha are gonna be a bit more complicated, I would say. Oh, by the way, these two look quite similar at some point, but here we have a bit more gray. Here we have a bit more white. I think it's visible. And same thing. We have different undertones at the same time. That's why I was like, I have some lilacs, but I don't have this one. Moreover, there are some shimmers which are super great, super beautiful, and I like them. My top 3 shades, top 4 shades from this. But of course, these 4, they are great. They look so beautiful. So no, I don't regret buying this palette. And I do like this palette, and I do like the quality of this palette. If you need some purple and if you do need some lilac shades, I think it is a great choice. Or you can still try to find this palette from Beauty Bay. Probably it's possible to find it on eBay, for instance, or somewhere else, because it was limited edition. And here we also have some purple shades, and they are nice. Beautiful palette, like it, love it, and I almost don't have any questions from quality point of view, of course. So let me know down below what you think about this palette from Natasha Denona. Are you gonna buy it or no? I hope you enjoyed this video, and if yes, please don't forget to put a thumbs up, and of course consider subscribing. And by the way, if you don't know what to write, just simply leave several emojis and it would help the channel to grow. And I hope to see you soon in the next video. Bye bye!